to Ride.
Ticket to Ride with
Ticket to
Ride.
Ride, yes.
So Ride, their album Going Blank Again, it comes in at number 338, just a couple behind or ahead of um, the Stone Roses. 338 in the 1990s, number 32 in 1992, number 1,815 of all time. It's Ride's second highest album on Best Ever Albums behind 1990's Nowhere, which was an album that we had covered in a previous episode. And Ride is ranked number 328 of overall artists on Best Ever Albums. I picked this one because I really liked the first Ride album, and I remember when we covered that, I remember reading that the two biggest hits that they had were the highest charting singles that they had were from this, and this the first two songs actually. Leave Them All Behind was the highest charting song in the UK, and then the second song, Twisterella, was the highest charting song in the US. So I remember reading about that and just thinking, that I would like to cover this again because I really like that first album, and I really like this album as well. I think it starts off really strong. I particularly think that it's bookended very well. I think the first two tracks are really strong.
1,000%.
I think the last two tracks are really strong. And and I'm just looking at this right now, actually they're all written by the same people. I'm just saying the lyrics were written. The Gardner, was it Mark Gardner wrote the lyrics for all of those songs, and it almost looks like he was responsible for those songs, and then other members were responsible for the other ones, but it looks like they were all contributed to the music. But so it's bookended really well, and then the songs in between, there's some really great songs in there. I really like Time Over Time and Cool Your Boots. But it's got that, it's a pioneering shoegaze record is essentially, what this is, and kind of building off of what they did before.
But it is nowhere near as shoegazy as the first album was.
No, I would
except for track one. Like track one, I'm like, okay, we're back in Rideville, and then it never retraces to me that true shoegaze vibe.
It's not as much there, but it's.
Oh, it's there.
I think it's still there. Yeah,
I'm talking the first album. You're in the soup the whole time, and you are in Leave Them All Behind, but then it leaves it behind, figuratively, like literally, and you're not. Yeah. And Twisterella is shocking.
Yes,
it's like where the fuck did this Jangle Pop song come from?
It's definitely got a poppier vibe, right? And that makes sense why Twisterella would have been the highest charting song in the U.S.
It does, but it doesn't sound like stuff that was on the radio in the U.S. either. It sounds like stuff that would be on the radio in Great Britain, because there's a ton of bands that were more popular in Britain than, I think of like the Charlatans or something. You know what I mean? Like that's what it sounded more than what I thought of with Ride.
It hit number 12 in the U.S. alternative charts.
Right.
So I mean, it's grain of salt there. It still wasn't a huge band in the U.S. either, but that's just the song that charted the best. I really like their vibe. I get drawn. I mean, some of these songs, these are longer songs as well. But I just think they hit a groove. I mean, we've just talked about, some songs or albums where, the song's too long and it's doing the same thing and it's never really deviating and it's boring or whatever. But there's sometimes where they just hit something that's so kind of simple, but just really connects with me, that I'm okay. If you want to go 7 minutes with this or 8 minutes with that, it's totally, you do that. You go with that, and a song like Leave Them All Behind is cool too, because not only they kind of, start off with the vibe and they kind of go with that for a while. Also great bass part in that too. But then they throw on like the vocals on that are really cool. There's some really cool harmonies that go into it, modulate in a different direction. So, you're kind of, sometimes, how you listen to a song and you feel like, oh, I know what the next note's going to be. I know where they're going to go with that. Well, they kind of did a couple of, curveballs here at you where it just went a different direction, and it was it was like a heftier kind of sound. And I definitely felt that with the opening track. But this is really good stuff for me. This is really, scratching a lot of itches that I have when I listen to music, and it's great whether I want to just put it in the background or whether I really want to just kind of put headphones on and let it wash over me, kind of a deal. It's good in any capacity, really. And fun side note as well. This is one of the things that you might have seen this, John, on Spotify now, that when you're playing a song or whatever, and then they've got the pull up menu from the bottom of the phone. and it's like, oh, this band is touring near you. It's
Right.
like, okay, let me see that. So I looked into it and I'm like, oh, they're playing Boston on Saturday. Oh, there's tickets available. I bought a ticket. I'm going to go see Ride on
Oh, good
Saturday
for you,
night.
man.
So, yeah. And I know that they're different. They just had an album come out
The
last month,
algorithm
actually.
gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, it did. It did. But and I know that they go in a different direction because this is kind of like they stop the shoegazy kind of part and they go into like a poppier thing later on. The most recent album has it's kind of more along the lines of like new wave, kind of pop. But I listened to that album as well because I wanted to familiarize myself with it because they're probably going to play a bunch of songs from that. And it's not as good as this. I don't think I like it as much, but it still has plenty of elements that I do like. So yeah, I'm excited to see them. But this is one of my favorite finds of the decade, and it's just this was another great album. I was thumbs up on it for sure.
Yeah, it was a really good choice. I was a little shocked by this album in some ways because I thought I was going to be back in the world of true shoegaze again. And let me start by saying you're right, Matt. There's still definitively shoegaze stuff in this, and when you put the headphones on, you get it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But I did listen to this in a non-headphone format, and you don't process those whirly guitars, the shoegazy, gauzy sound, right? As much, and you do on Leave Them All Behind, and so at that it's a very good song. It's right in my wheelhouse, right? But one thing and then it goes to Twisterella, which is like nothing like anything they'd done before that. So I was just like, I super enjoy this song, but this is just this like jaunty
Yep.
jaunty guitar with like this
Power
great
pop
bass
kinda.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this fantastic bass line just laid down behind it. Yeah, power poppy type song. And I'm like, oh, that's a curveball right there. And it kind of continued in more that lane, I'd say, than the true shoegaze lane, or a marriage of both. I think why you like them so much, Matt, and I appreciate it too, because I have more nuance of bands I really like, and they don't have to be in one version of this, right? Like I like some that are uglier and I like some that are prettier in this, but this is kind of pretty shoegaze. It's melodic shoegaze.
Yes, very much. And Josh liked this too, if you remember when we covered them the first time. He was kind of on board.
I
with
mean,
the
this
first
is
album.
Josh's shoegaze. Like because he for whatever
Josh
reason
gaze.
he doesn't get into the hypnotic element of the shoegaze stuff like we do, but I also like the dirty, grimy shoegaze. There's just something about
I like
that
too.
I know you do. Yeah, that's why I'm saying like you'll know what I mean with this, because but I like power pop too. So I can appreciate like, oh, let's take the dirty shoegaze sound and take it down a little bit and add a little bit of prettiness to it and melody and harmonies maybe a little bit more, instead of like riding out certain notes or just the feedback on the wave for a while. And of course, if you expand it out and we go past shoegaze into like noise rock, I think is the next buoy out, instead of shoegaze, right, where it gets uglier. And that's like been harder for you guys, whereas I'm like, what? Sonic Youth doing feedback for 4 minutes? Yes. My Bloody Valentine? Oh, yes. Yes. Jesus and Mary Chain? Like, all of these things. And you guys are like, I might jump off the rodeo at this point. But so it makes sense to me that this was the version of it that Josh liked best, and it's a version that connects with you. Even though I know the other version does too, so I don't want to put you in a box on that one. But I did appreciate the variety of songs on this. I appreciated the bass lines, which is not something I normally would say stands out in any sort of noise rock or shoegaze album. They kind of get blended into the mix sometimes, but there's a lot of good bass lines. I wrote down the same thing, Matt. I'm like, this is particularly strong on both ends and in the doughy middle, with Time of Her Time and Cool Your Boots and
those are both
Making
really
Judy
good.
Smile are all very good songs. So both ends and then the middle. Not to say there's not good stuff other ways. I also like the juxtaposition of some shorter songs with some longer songs, and it made the longer songs not feel as long. And even Grasshopper at the end being 11 minutes, I know I said earlier like nothing should be 11 minutes, and I'll still stand by that, but there was enough going on in Grasshopper that it kept me interested, and also it was preceded by an album I really liked, so it had earned the right to be a little bit indulgent.
And that's actually, and I listened to so those were extra bonus tracks. The original album would just ended at OX4.
Oh wow, okay.
So what? Yeah. So when I'm sorry. So when I was talking about bookending really well, I was talking about the first 2 tracks, "Leave Them All Behind" and "Twisterella," and then "Time Machine" and OX4. The other 11 through 14,
"Stampede" and "Grasshopper," which I
so those are both really good. So I did listen to that whole way, the first way through, and I was like, damn, those are really good too. And I remember thinking that with their first record, that they have these extra bonus tracks that ordinarily for a lot of times you're like, oh, that's. It did need to be there.
Stampede was like a Smashing Pumpkins song.
Yeah. And then "Grasshopper." Yeah, that was a little bit more of an epic song. But yeah, it was the difference between a 73-minute long album and a 50-minute long album. So I stuck with the 50 after I learned that. But those other songs I remember liking as well.
Yeah, wow, it really adds that much to it, huh? I'm looking right now, 7, 11. It does add 21 minutes, yeah. So crazy. It didn't feel like that. So, but yeah, this one's a pretty comfortable thumbs up for me as well. I enjoyed this album.
Yeah, I think, John, they're just starting this tour because I was looking. I wanted to see what songs that they've been playing.
They don't. I think that they play Philly in December. It looks like.
Yeah, they're coming. I think they're coming in December to DC in December too. I think.
Okay.
I saw.
So we'll see where I am.
That's true.
One, yeah.
So I think tonight is their opening night of the tour. So I'll be curious because they have like 7 albums now, and most of their albums were actually after the 90s. So it's the more new incarnation. So I just hope they mix it up. I want to hear some new stuff too, but I hope that they hit a good amount from the first 2 records.
Is this the first time you saw a band that you wouldn't have seen because of the podcast?
No.
Okay.
It'll be the second. The first was Kraftwerk, and that was also like I saw that they were coming on like a Tuesday. They were coming on Friday. Because I saw a concert. I think I saw Sigur Rós like on like a Monday night or whatever, and then I saw that Kraftwerk was going to play that weekend, and I just bought a ticket and went by myself.
I hope to experience that because I've never seen it pop up that they're on tour in my area on this for whatever reason. So yeah,
and I'll have a third one in September when I go to see PJ Harvey.
Oh, nice! Live. I have never seen PJ Harvey live as much as I love her, which is such a strange thing because I've seen just about everybody else I love. So
yeah,
but yeah,
so good. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah,
good stuff. We'll have to. This will be an interesting one to check with Josh again because we'll use it as like the Rorschach test for shoegaze for Josh. Yeah,
I think he's gonna like it because I agree with you. I think it's got. I think he's probably gonna like it more than the first one because it does have more of a structured, traditional structure, poppier element that I think.
And he likes power pop. He does. I do too. It's funny because I like power pop quite a bit, but I'm probably 3 of 3 on this show in terms of power pop. I would have always put you as number 1 on it, but I actually think Josh might like power pop even more than you because you like some uglier stuff, and he likes pretty, doesn't he? Yeah. More so than you by quite a bit. So
sometimes, yeah.
Well,
he also likes ska.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty. In the sense that it's upbeat, right? You know what I mean?
It is. That's true. Yeah,
he likes to dance. You may not like the melodies, but like it's not like you have to search for the melody in ska.
He likes to dance. He always talks about like wanting to dance. So.
Yes.